Ever give everything to someone who treated you like a backup plan? Listen. The moment you stop chasing? That's not their win. That's yours. Because here's what actually happens when a person who knows their worth goes silent. They don't feel powerful. They feel uncertain. Their entire sense of security was built on your pursuit. The second you step back, they're staring at a mirror they can't look away from, and it shows them their own behavior. They'll check your stories without engaging. Wonder if you moved on. Ask themselves questions they never did. Did I mess this up? Do they even think about me? This isn't about games. It's about understanding what happens psychologically when value is finally recognized. If you're wondering whether they miss you, I'm about to walk you through the real psychological patterns that emerge when people realize what they overlooked. More importantly, why your self-respect might speak louder than words ever could. Let's go. Here's something most people don't realize. Your absence creates more psychological impact than your presence ever did. When you were always available, always responding, always showing up, you became part of their baseline. Like oxygen. Essential, but invisible. The human brain is wired to notice what's missing, not what's constant. We feel the pain of losing something twice as intensely as the pleasure of having it. That's not being dramatic. That's actual psychology. Think about it. The moment your texts stop, something shifts in their daily routine. That good morning message they barely acknowledged? It created a pattern in their brain. When it disappears, their brain registers it as a loss. Not immediately, but within a few days, the void becomes real. They'll check their phone more often. Refresh your profile. Look for signs you're thinking about them. And here's the part that matters for you. When you were chasing, they held the cards. They decided when to respond, how much energy to give back, whether to engage or pull away. But the moment you stop reaching out, the dynamic flips. Now they're the one wondering. Now they're the one calculating. And that shift? It's not just in their behavior. It's in how they perceive your value. You're not playing games. You're simply no longer volunteering for a one-sided dynamic. And that clarity, that's what creates the shift. The silence doesn't just create space. It creates questions. And these questions loop in their mind on repeat. Why haven't they reached out? That turns into, did I push them too far? Which becomes, was I too harsh? Too cold? Too unavailable? This isn't manipulation on your part. This is natural human reflection when someone we're used to having around suddenly isn't there. You're not causing them pain. You're giving them the space to evaluate their own behavior. They'll start comparing you to others they encounter. And here's what they'll notice. Most people either chase too hard or don't care at all. You cared enough to show up consistently, but you're secure enough to walk away when it's not reciprocated. That balance is rare. And in your absence, they're realizing just how rare. What if they meet someone else? What if I was their last attempt? What if they're actually done this time? These aren't thoughts they're having because you manipulated them. These are the natural consequences of taking someone's consistency for granted. You're not punishing them. You're simply showing them, through your actions, that your energy has value, and you're no longer giving it away for free. This is about you recognizing your worth. Their questions are just the echo of that recognition. They've felt distance before. But this time, something's different. And they can sense it. There's a difference between pulling away in anger and stepping back in peace. Anger still shows you care about the outcome. Peace shows you've accepted reality and chosen yourself. People are incredibly intuitive about emotional energy. They can feel that you're not silent to get a reaction. You're silent because you're genuinely moving forward. And that realization? It hits different. Every other time you pulled back, there was still a thread of hope, still a door left slightly open. This time, they sense the door is closed. Not locked, closed. There's no drama, no anger, no passive-aggressive posts. Just quiet. And that quiet carries a message louder than any argument ever could. I value myself too much to keep doing this. Here's what they're starting to see. You're not playing games. You're not trying to win them back with tactics. You're genuinely choosing your peace over chaos, your self-respect over validation. And that level of emotional maturity? It's attractive in a way that desperation never was. They're realizing they didn't lose a person who was desperate for their attention. They lost a person who knew their value, and that's the kind of loss that lingers. Your silence isn't a weapon. It's a boundary. And boundaries, when respected, are powerful. Stick with this, because what comes next is where most get it wrong. Here's the psychology that most people don't talk about. We don't miss people for the big gestures. We miss them for the patterns they created in our lives. When you were there, they barely noticed how you remembered their coffee order. How you'd check in when they had a rough day. How you'd listen to them vent about work without trying to fix everything. These small acts? They weren't flashy. They were consistent. And consistency creates patterns in the brain. When those patterns are suddenly interrupted, the brain feels the absence intensely. They'll encounter others. People who don't ask how their day was. People who forget what they told them last week. People who are physically present but emotionally checked out. And every time they experience that contrast, your value increases in their mind. Not because you were perfect, but because you were present. And presence, real presence, is becoming increasingly rare. Memory is selective. They'll start remembering the version of you that showed up consistently, not the arguments or frustrations. This isn't dishonest. It's human nature. When we lose access to something, our brain tends to highlight what was good about it. The texts they ignored? They'll remember them as sweet. The patience they took for granted? They'll remember it as strength. You didn't change. Their perception did. Because absence doesn't just make the heart grow fonder. It makes the mind grow clearer about what was actually there all along. This is the moment where comparison becomes undeniable. And it's not about others being worse. It's about recognizing what was unique about you. You didn't just hear their words. You heard what they weren't saying. When they said I'm fine, you knew they weren't. When they needed space, you gave it without making them feel guilty. That level of emotional awareness? It's not common. Most people are so focused on their own needs, they miss the subtle cues. You didn't. And now that you're gone, they're realizing how rare that awareness actually was. With you, they could be themselves. Messy, emotional, contradictory, and you didn't judge them for it. You created a space where they felt safe enough to be human. And safety, real emotional safety, is one of the most undervalued qualities in a connection. They might have called it boring or too comfortable at the time. But now? They're realizing that what they called boring was actually peace. And peace is something you don't appreciate until chaos becomes your new normal. Here's the truth. People are technically replaceable. But patterns aren't. The specific way you made them laugh. The inside jokes only you two understood. The rhythm you'd built together over time. These things can't be copy-pasted into a new relationship. They were unique to you and them. And when they try to recreate that with someone else, they'll realize it doesn't hit the same. Not because the new person is worse, but because what you built together was singular. They're not missing a perfect person. They're missing the specific way you showed up for them. And that specificity? That's what makes the missing so sharp. This is where the shift becomes visual. And visibility changes everything. They see you on social media. Not posting about them, not posting sad quotes, just living. Maybe you're hitting the gym harder. Maybe you're spending time with friends you'd neglected. Maybe you're working on a project you're passionate about. Whatever it is, they notice. And what they notice most is that you're not falling apart. You're not waiting for them to come back. You're genuinely moving forward. When a person steps back from chasing and starts investing in themselves, there's a visible shift. Better energy. Better posture. Better confidence. It's not fake. It's what happens when you stop pouring energy into trying to convince someone of your value and start living it instead. And people notice this shift. We always do. Because the person who's glowing isn't glowing for us. They're glowing for themselves. And that authenticity is magnetic. The most painful moment for them isn't when you walk away. It's when they realize you're not coming back. Not because you're angry or hurt, but because you've genuinely moved on. You're not holding on to what could have been. You're building what will be. And that finality, that peaceful acceptance, is what makes them realize they didn't just lose your attention. They lost your investment. And that's not something they can easily get back. You're not trying to make them jealous. You're just being the person you were always capable of being when you stopped dimming yourself for someone who couldn't see your light. Now here's what matters most, and it's not about them. Let me be crystal clear about something. If you're going silent to manipulate them into missing you, you've already lost. The energy behind your actions always leaks through. If you're pulling back as a tactic to win them back, they'll sense it. And it won't have the same impact. But if you're stepping back because you genuinely recognize that you deserve reciprocity, that you're not willing to settle for breadcrumbs, that you value your peace more than their validation, that energy is undeniable. And it's powerful. The irony is this. The moment you stop caring about whether they miss you is the moment they're most likely to feel your absence. Because you're no longer energetically tied to the outcome. You're free. And freedom, genuine internal freedom, is one of the most attractive qualities a person can have. Not because it draws people to you, but because it shows you're complete without them. Every minute you spent wondering do they think about me is a minute you're not building your life. Your silence shouldn't be about them. It should be about you reclaiming the energy you've been giving away and reinvesting it where it actually grows. In your health, your goals, your mental clarity, your future. That's not selfish. That's necessary. They might miss you. They might not. But that's their journey. Yours is about becoming the person you're proud to be. Here's the reframe that changes everything. The goal isn't to make them regret losing you. The goal is to build a life where their absence doesn't define you. The measure of your healing isn't whether they come back. It's whether you're genuinely okay if they don't. Can you think about them without bitterness? Can you wish them well even if they're with someone else? Can you look back at what you learned instead of what you lost? That's emotional maturity. And it's the kind of strength that compounds over time. Going through this experience taught you something invaluable. What you will and won't accept in your relationships moving forward. You now know what it feels like to be taken for granted. You won't unsee that. And the next time someone shows you inconsistent effort, you'll recognize it earlier. You'll have the courage to walk away sooner. That's not cynicism. That's wisdom. When you meet someone who actually values your presence, who matches your energy, who sees your consistency as strength rather than weakness, you'll realize why this one didn't work out. Not everyone is meant to see your value. Some people are in your life to teach you what you won't tolerate. And that's a gift, even when it doesn't feel like one. The real win is becoming the kind of person who doesn't need closure from anyone but themselves. So where do you go from here? Forward. Always forward. If you're in that silence phase right now, stay in it. Not as a game, but as a gift to yourself. Use this time to rebuild your identity outside of them. Reconnect with hobbies you dropped. Strengthen friendships you neglected. Invest in your career, your health, your mental clarity. This isn't about becoming someone new to impress them. This is about rediscovering who you were before you dimmed yourself trying to fit into someone else's life. If they reach out, here's your gauge. Does the idea of responding make you feel anxious or excited? If it's anxiety, fear that they'll disappear again, fear that you'll say the wrong thing, fear that you'll lose them again, that's a sign you're not ready. But if it's peace, if you can engage from a place of groundedness rather than neediness, then you're in a healthier place to decide what you actually want. 6 months from now, you're going to look back at this moment. And the question won't be, did they miss me? The question will be, did I become the person I needed to be? Focus on that version of yourself. Build toward them. Chase that vision harder than you ever chased anyone. Because that's the version of you that doesn't get taken for granted. Ever. Look, I know this isn't easy to hear. Especially if you're still in the thick of it, still checking your phone hoping their name will pop up. But here's what I want you to take away from this. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see it. Read that again. The person who took you for granted taught you something crucial, what you will no longer accept. And the next person who earns your consistency? They'll be the one who recognizes it as the gift it is. You're not broken. You're not too nice. You're not unlovable. You just gave your energy to someone who wasn't ready to honor it. And that's on them, not you. If this resonated with you, remember this perspective. It's shared to give you an unfiltered look at human psychology. Not to manipulate, but to understand. To help you move through the world with more clarity, more confidence, and more respect for yourself. You're not alone. Many have walked this path. You've got this. Now go build something worth not looking back for.